Greetings, everybody, and welcome to this Global Conscious platform. There are very disturbing images that are coming from Sudan, which I'm going to share with you. The United States State Department have put out an information warning the rapid support forces of General Mohammed Hamdi of Sudan not to attack the Jizira state around Medina in Sudan. The United States Secretary of State Anthony Blinken have specifically warned the rapid support forces not to carry out this attack against the black community in Darfur region. Now, a lot of us are not aware because the mainstream media do not pay attention or do not publicize what is happening in Sudan. I'm going to show you some of the videos that are coming from that part of the world for every African and every black man with big nose like myself should be very worried and should be alarmed, especially when the whole war is going gaga about Israel's operation in Gaza. You can watch behind me. That video shows lines and lines of hundreds, if not hundreds of thousands of black Africans being driven away from their own ancestral land in Darfur region, being chased by the RSF, that is the Rapid Support Forces of General Hamza. Ever since the President Bashir was overthrown in Sudan, you have these two generals who have been fighting each other for control over Sudan. You have the General Abdel Fattah Burhan. You have him fighting against the guy who is the head of the RSF. What unites these two generals in Sudan? What have always united the Sudanese people who consider themselves as Arabs? I say Sudanese people, specifically the elites from Khartoum. These two generals, what unites them is the hatred for the black people. They have killed millions of black people in South Sudan that led to the separation of that country where you now have South Sudan. And now they have turned their attention for the hatred of the people of Darfur. You would imagine that when you find hundreds of thousands of black people being chased away from their ancestral land, you have some outrage. You have the Nigerians talking about it, you have the Ethiopians talking about it, but nobody is talking about it. It is the United States of America that have put out a warning these forces not to attack the Medina villages in the Jizira state where the black people in Sudan are majority. In Africa, we used to live in an era where the whole of black Africa unite themselves to fight against the apartheid regime. Today, you find Africans very cut off from the reality of our continent. Yet we are very involved in criticizing or talking about the problem elsewhere, the problem of the Palestinian, the problem of Ukraine. You can name it, Africans are there, except when it comes to African problems. This is very disturbing, and I want to highlight this particular story and the whole issue of racism in Sudan, where you have these Arab people who conquered that land during the period of the Ottoman Empire have become a very big threat of genocide against the Sudanese black people, especially now in the Darfur region. Sudan is very important for people to understand the culture of the hatred of black people in Sudan. This is something that started during the period of the Ottoman Empire that brought these Arabs in Sudan. Sudan's capital, Khartoum, was founded by one of the most racist, genocidal person who have ever lived in Africa. And he was the first governor of Khartoum. His name is Al-Zabai Bashar. A big street in the center of Sudan is named after him. In the capital of Sudan, the biggest, most prominent street is named after this killer who have killed millions of black people. He was the king of slaves. He was actually called the richest king of slaves. They had built a culture of Arab people raiding black villages right up to the Oromia region of Ethiopia, right down to Chad, even right up to Central African Republic. They had armies of slaves that raid African villages rape women, carry their men, those they could not kill, to work as slaves for Arabs. These have been going on right up to 2005. Sudan was one of the only places in Africa where they resisted the abolition of slavery during 1825 when the British outlawed slavery. Sudan rejected slavery, the abolition of slavery. Black people in Sudan are called slaves by the Arabs, and this thing is going on, and Africans needs to know and they needs to wake up. Black life will never matter if our own suffering do not matter to us as black people. The hatred for the black man with the big nose is so deep, so disturbing. And even so, the silence of us black people to talk about this issue, address this issue, and rally support to highlight this issue is even more disturbing. So I watched these images and I watched the reports and I watched the warning from the United States of America, and I asked myself, what about the African countries? Which African country care about this genocide that is taking place in Darfur? For how long shall we be divided as black people? For how long shall the black people suffer from racism, genocide, abuses? And credit to the Americans for what they are doing. And they also saved the day for the Southern Sudanese. But every African should be aware of this genocide and this racism that exists in the northern part of Africa that had zero. In 15 BC, there were no Arabs in Africa. It was the Ottoman Empire that raided Africa, North Africa, killing blacks along the River Nile, sending away black, castrating Ugandans, driving away black people out of their territory. And I've met some of my friends who are so-called Arabs, and they don't consider themselves as Africans. And they are very proud of this culture of enslaving the black people to come and work for them. And this should be known, and we should not be ashamed to have this conversation. Have a good day.